Followers will never know how hard the leader tries to create a path. Hello everyone, welcome back to Mongol Srijana YouTube channel. I'm Srijana Gurung. Today, after a long time, I'm presenting here in front of you, so I hope you are doing very well. So today we are in another new episode of Hidden Facts in Nepalese Politics Part 2, which was written by the founder, president of Mongol National Organization, Immortal Dr. Gopal Gurung. I had already recited the first part of this book's videos. If you had missed that one, then please you can check it out on Mongol Srijana YouTube channel previous videos. And in that previous videos, you guys had given so many positive response. So I am feeling very thankful to you guys for all your love and support. And I'm also feeling so glad to know that now many people wants to know more about Dr. Gopal Gurung and his books, because once there was a time where people were scared to listen his speech or even his words, because at that time the Panchayat government system didn't give right to raise their voice for their right. But there was one and only Dr. Gopal Gurung who became the voice of 80% indigenous Mongol people of Nepal, who raised voice against the Panchayat government system, who raised voice against the Hindu ruler, who raised voice against the Nepal's constitution. So now the time has changed. Now the indigenous Mongol peoples are raising their voice for their rights and for their identities, which is only happening and only possible because of Dr. Gopal Gurung. So today I am going to read his books Hidden Facts in Nepalese Politics, which is also a second part, and I hope you will like these videos, and also I am very much sure that you will keep loving and supporting these videos like the previous one. So then please don't forget to like, comment, share these videos, and also don't forget to subscribe my YouTube channel too. So without any delay, let's begin our today's program. Ganeshman Singh, who had a long political experience, had been an Iron Man not only for the democracy struggle but also for his party. He had undergone life and death trials during the Rana period. He put his life at stake in the democracy movement more vigorously than B.P. Koirala, who was in favor of merging Nepal into India at the time for the sake of its ancestral land, religion and culture. At India's Banaras was the only holy pilgrimage places of Bahuns who preferred to go there to take their last breath, or to have dipped their ashes remnant after death and dream of attaining salvation afterwards. Therefore, Koirala's educational and political career was rooted in his birthplace India. Because of his Ganeshman Singh, it never had to ponder and move carefully every time since he was not a Bahun. While Ganeshman Singh was committed to freedom, fighting both in thoughts and in action, even at the risk of the death sentence, B.P. Koirala was supporting India. At that time, the repercussion of the Second World War had broken the British rule into India extensively, and as a result, the British ruler were leaving India, with the subsequent effect of the Rana rule being shaken badly in Nepal. The British ruler were prepared to leave India, but they were not prepared to disown the Gorkha army too. It was not because they had affection towards the Gorkha army, but because of the long history of Gorkhas' undaunted service, fear of another world war and wholehearted blind dedication without raising any question or doubts to their commanders. The Rana colonial regime and the British colonies ruled had conspired against the Gorkha army, treating them as tools and turning them into mercenaries. The Gorkha race is mostly comprised of the Gurung, Tamu in mother tongue, Magar, Rai and Limbu tribes. The word Gorkha doesn't mean the protector of cows is described by the Hindus. That connotation has created confusion to the foreign scholars. Mongols are not Hindus and they are beef eater, not cow worshipper. Newar, Tamang, Sherpa, Thami, Helmo, Gurung, Magar, Lepcha, Rai, Limbu, Thakali, Sunuar, Donuar in the mountain and hilly region, and the vast population of the Tarai, built like Tharu, Meche, Kot, Dhimal, etc. belongs to the aboriginal Mongol race of Nepal. But in Gorkha army they were only Gurung, Magar, Rai and Limbu recruited. Those warriors belongs to the Mongol race, whose definition the Bahun and Chetri attempted to distort. The ancient history of our land has been mentioned in the Hindu scripts, where the Kiratis are despitefully depicted as an uncivilized wild race. The Mahabharata and the Ramayana epic also have mentioned the Kirati race and land. The Kiratis were the Mongol and other aboriginal tribes of India. They were non-Aryan and non-Hindus. A large number of them were the followers of the Lord Buddha. The word Hindu identifies Bahun and Chetri, in which the Bahun are the A class. Even the Bahun superior and inferior classes, they observe Hindu rituals. The Bahun of Nepal are mostly from Kumaon, Garhwal, Kashi and other places in India. These peoples are Indian origin but Nepali. Therefore, they should be addressed Indian Nepali in Nepal. Some of them have created the problem not only in Bhutan but also in some part of India, that is Nagaland, Assam and Meghalaya. They are the dreamer of not Greater Nepal and the Greater Sikkim but multi-Hindu kingdom. Once Myanmar took a strong step against these people, what was the reason behind it? Who were the problem creator? Their forefathers were of black iron and had to come to Nepal seeking shelter during the period of the Mughal invasion in India. But in the course of time, the ownership of the land was gradually confiscated from the hand of the aboriginal race. Even their political, economical, religious, educational, cultural, human rights and heritage were deprived, destroyed and suppressed by the wily refugee who eventually became the owner of the land, and ironically the landless owner were crossed and portrayed as refugees. The Gorkha soldier who could face any unprecedented hardship and could survive by any means during wartime had fought valiantly for the British and safeguarded their interests at any cost. In the Second World War, 62,000 Gorkha soldiers were killed. They were all from Gurung, Magar, Rai, Limbu and Tamang tribes. On the 1st of September 1939, England and France declared war against Germany. On the 30th of April 1945, Hitler committed suicide in a bunker of the range Chancellery, Berlin on the 7th of May 1945. Admiral Jumitz, the government surrendered. But as Japan had not stopped war, America dropped atom bomb consequently on Hiroshima on the 6th of August 1945 and on Nagasaki on the 9th of August 1945, killing innumerable citizens and disabling others. 5 days later, on the 14th of August 1945, after two major cities were devastated, Japan had to surrender without any preterm of agreement, and on the 2nd of September 1945 has to sign a truce. Now the devastating war was over. The World War had claimed the lives of 62,000 Gorkha soldiers, leaving behind a host of widows and orphans who loved and cared them. During the wartime, Gorkha soldiers were scattered worldwide in many corners of the action. But ironically, the Japanese and Germans against whom the Gurkha had fought and sacrificed their lives were not their enemies. Nevertheless, Nepal earned an identity in the international arena as the land of Gurkhas. Similarly, the Gurkha had fought valiantly during the First World War. After the World War, the ex-servicemen equipped with the full training and bitter experience of modern war fought against the Rana rule not as a mercenaries but as true freedom fighter of the motherland. The British ruler who politically had promoted the Rana regime to establish its dominance in Nepal in exchange for Chief Gurkha troops were rooted out from the India, resulting in bringing the downfall of the Rana regime in Nepal. The Rana, which lasted for 104 years, was marked by family rule, conspiracies, bloodshed and the exploitation of the Nepalese people. But unfortunately, even after its downfall, the Rana system lingered on in the form of Panchayat system that was initiated by Chandra Shamsher Rana. Now multi-party system has restored in 1990, but it is only in the name of constitution in similar to Panchayat system. The racial conspiracies of the Bahun with the collaboration of the Kshetris is one of the reasons for the precarious state of our present nation. After the independence struggle of 1951, the Mongol people who fought valiantly, playing prominently frontline roles, were discriminated against ruthlessly, and a class rivalry started between the Bahuns and Kshetri. As a matter of fact, Bahun considered themselves to be the most superior class of human beings, like Hitler, and considered the rival Kshetris as their guard of their selfish motives. Ever since the epic age, class fraction existed between them in their own scripture and myth. Parshuram and Brihaspati were the rival leaders, and they were after the class supremacy at the cost of their lives. Even among Bahun, the Jaisis are considered to be one of the lower status and are despised in their circle, but they stand united when they are prepared to eliminate the Mongol people. This kind of filthy role of the caste Jat against the race invites a civil war in the country. Not only in Nepal, but in other parts of the world. Also, they unite together for their communal cause of the suppressing their foolishly debuted but brave Gurkha people, because the source of their ancestral place, religion and culture was the same. After the freedom fight, these two so-called upper-class people always manipulate our honest people in fulfilling their selfish motives, treating them inhumanly, brainwashing their children from a young age, using them as instruments, and turning them into their fatalistic followers who never could open their eyes to realize the real situation and the value of their own identity. On the other hand, the class struggle between the two rival castes, Bahun and Kshetri, became more visible than during the Rana period, a fact that can be supported by the series of the political events of Nepal after 1951. After the independence, the first ministry of Nepal was comprised of 11 Bahun, 21 Kshetris, 11 Newar, 3 Rais and 1 Yadav. Before the election for the next ministry, a ministry was formed during King Mahendra rule, and the ministry consisted of 8 Bahun, 14 Kshetris, 3 Newar, 2 Limbu, 1 Mahot and 1 Bengali. After the election, B.B. Koirala came into power, and his ministry there was 6 Bahun, 1 Kshetri, 1 Newar, 1 Tharu and 1 Limbu. A careful analysis reflects the picture of the class struggle between These two so-called upper classes, they call European Mlechcha. It means untouchable. After the 15th of December 1960, the late King Mahendra introduced the Panchayat system, dissolving the democratic parliament. This revival of the Rana periods, Panchayat script, caused more damage to our race. Not is the time for us to be the aware of the surrounding, groaning barricade that shuts us in the perpetual darkness. The above-mentioned ministries could not represent the vast majority of the Aboriginal people as well as the Buddhist, Christian and Muslim who were discriminated against. Since Nepal was declared to be the only Hindu kingdom, all universal rights of the Buddhist, Christian, Muslim and other religions have been crossed attemptably in the comprehensive manner. But some of our contemptuous opportunities fellow persons have outcasted themselves, accepting the lowest grade of Sudra in the Hindu caste order and have accepted the perpetual bond of the Hindu slavery. Some people have called Mongols the Janajati of the Hindu religion. However, Janajati refers to nomad. People should have a clear idea of Mulvasi, Adivasi and Janajati. Indigenous people means Mulvasi, not Adivasi and Janajati. Bahons and Chetri have started campaign against us. They say there is no Mulvasi in Nepal. It creates another confusion and misleads people. After 1960, these two Hindu masters have become arbitrary under the slogan "One nation, one religion, one language and one culture." A minority group has ill-treated a majority group, just as the minority white people have ill-treated an Aboriginal black people of South Africa. The children of Baun have all sorts of facilities like free Sanskrit schools, campuses and boarding and other financial assistance like pocket money and other allowances. They have budget for a Sanskrit university already. The government spent around 2 million rupees for running a Sanskrit university in Dang, West Nepal, where the student number has only increased from 10 to 14 over such a long span of time. The annual expense is net from national finances alone. On the other hand, the government of course does not set aside a single penny for the preservation and upliftment of the other languages, dialects, scripts, religions, or culture. On the contrary, it ruthlessly closes down the school opened and run by the private sector, about which only spare news has been published from time to time in the New Light Weekly. Sanskrit is introduced as a compulsory subject in the school from the primary level onward, resulting in the strangling of the mother language of our children. It has become an excuse to fail our children in this subject so that dropout and laggards would easily prevail, whereas the Bahun children would get through easily and be more able to capture all the good posts from the bottom of the top. Ironically, our Mongol representatives have never dared to raise voice in the house for our good causes, but have supported the expanding of the Sanskrit campuses and universities. Even Radio Nepal and Nepal Television never included Mongol program, but wastes time playing cheap records. Radio Nepal and NTV never included Buddhist program, Christian and Muslim program. The Panchayat system has always aggrandized the publicity of the Hindu religion and culture under the banner of one nation, one religion, and the same thing has repeated in the present so-called multi-party system. At the expense of the national revenue, the arbitrary rulers are crossing the Mongol people, Muslim and Christian all alike, having the political power in their hand, They have the police force, army force, and emissary in their control, making it easy for them to play their own cards. They manipulate the government policy and finances accordingly. They praise the lane of the Buddha in foreign countries and talk highly about the peace at the same time begging like a beggar. But in practice, they sabotage internal peace by demolishing Buddhist temples that are under construction and never preaching Buddhist teaching on Radio Nepal programs. Only Hindu ideology is preaching on morning program. Even after restoring of so-called multi-party system and democracy, other religions are suppressed. For example, newly built Buddhist temple were destroyed near Bhairava. Christian organizations are not registered. It happens here till Nepal remains Hindu kingdom. We Aboriginal Mongol people and their only the organization Mongol National Organization political organization wants secular country, full-fledged human rights. But so long there is king, there can't be no secular country. The king of Nepal is the king of minority Hindus only. Once they conspired to demolish a Buddhist stupa constructed by Gurung in Pokhara and put him in a jail, while the paid crooks of the Hindus beat a Japanese monk mercilessly and thus defamed the good name, the lane of Buddha outside Nepal. At that time, the local zonal commissioner was the Bahun, whose name was Anandaraj Pathak. Because of his communal act of demolishing a Buddhist stupa, he earned the merit of holding a high government post for good. Through its different publicity media, His Majesty government widely publicized fabricated and misleading reports regarding this communal event, incurring the resentment of all the Buddhist organizations. Eventually, Rev Santi Suge, the in charge of India Nepal Buddhist organization, gave a statement of the 6th October 1974 against the false allegation charged by the government to the Japanese monks and described it saying, "Rare incident in the history of Buddhism. It is nothing but a planned attack on the Buddhists by His Majesty government." A few years back, on the Nagar Panchayat on Butol had pulled down all the pillars of the Buddhist monastery, which was under construction being financed by the social Gurung community. When the situation became tense at the response of the local people, they reluctantly allowed the pillars to be put back on their foundation. But in the dark of the night, the authorities, along with the some Bahun, put off a wooden post for the slaughtering of animals during Hindu festival sacrifices. The Gurung community, along with the local people, strongly objected against such an unsocial activity, and consequently the Hindu priests dare not to hold any sacrificial ceremonies on the premises of the non-violent monastery. If they openly suppress the religious activities of the Buddhists in the land of Buddha, what was about the activities of the Christian and other religion? Yet the Hindu officials of the Nepal have always presented misleading reports of the world, falsely claiming Nepal is a Hindu kingdom based on the fictitious population data in which 90% of the total population is falsely claimed as Hindus. They know that all top-ranking officials belongs to their caste, and therefore they don't worry about their license for the corruption. When I wrote in my weekly paper demanding secular nation, Deb Bahadur Kesi, then Rashtriya Panchayat member from Dang, tabled a demand of action against me in the assembly because he didn't want to accept the fact that the religion as well as the yearly calendar of the Nepal are not national in the true sense of the word but foreign. One day they will pay very clearly for their oppression of the Aborigines, for their number is 20% of the total population. The privileged class of the Hindus are the Bahun and Chetris. Shah, Rana Singh and Rajput of Tarai are Chetris. There are Mogar and Tharu, Rana, and there are Singh in Newar. The Kami, blacksmith, Damai, trailer, Sarki, cobbler, Matir, street cleaner, Gaine, street singer, and Janajati nomad are Hindus of caste order by their birth. They are untouchable. Even Bahun and Chetris became Hindu only after observing certain religious ceremony. Here 80% of the people of the total population are non-Hindus, most of whom are Buddhist, and a few of them are Muslim and Christian. But Rai, Limbu, Gurung, Mogar, Newar, Sherpa, Lepchas, Tamang and other Mongol tribes have their own traditional faith and practices. So when the monotonous, deceiving slogan of the Hindu religion, the Hindu nation, the Hindu calendar, the Hindu caste and the Hindi language and the Hindi script become intolerable for the majority non-Hindu people, then the king will be the face of a crucial question: will he be a king of only the minority Hindus or the king of the majority non-Hindus also? If he is the king of the 80% non-Hindus then it is quite natural for them to seek their rights, or else their reverence towards the royalty will be questionable. On the first day of January 1994, addressing to a mass meeting of Mongol National Organization at Kutihawa near Bhairua, Gopal Gurung, the founder president of Mongol National Organization Central Assembly, advised to the king to remain as a long-life president and announced Nepal a secular country. Some Mongol non-Hindus person have become Hindus by accepting the lowest Sudra creed. Sudra means food. They are counted as an insect, grasshopper and animals. Some such ignorant Sudras invite Bahun priests to perform their ritual on important occasions like call, birth, marriage, festival and death. A Bahun priest is called a Baze in Nepali. Literally it means grandfather and old man. These Sudras are the soft caste, lower their head to the feet of the Bahun. Bahun is the supreme caste of all Hindus. They taught Sudras forefather to address them Baze irrespective to their age. The father and brother of the Christian religious have to study before attending their religious title. But the Bahun Baze becomes Sudra's grandfather by birth and makes their other foods. The Hindus bow on them and drink the filthy water from washing of Bahun's feet. Generation after generation of them have exploited us and made us slaves of their communal politics and customs. When will our people wake up against such vile, dominating practices and learn to live like a man? Two non-Hindus who accepted Sudra's caste identify and defame our Mongol race were Dilman Singh Thapa, a Mogar from Sangja district, and Padma Sundar Lawati, a Limbu from Panchthar district. They were tempted and sold out their souls, losing their self-identity and social status, and influencing Gurung lady protected against their action and allocated a fine against all the bound priests who had conducted this vile ritual. So this was for today, promising you to bring another part of these books videos in another episode. Till then, stay home, stay safe. Thank you. Have a good day.